Hey YouTube, so this is going to be my first official video using my new camera, and I wanted it to be a good one, sort of a thought-provoking one. Um, so here it goes. Why can't we, as pagans, all get along? You know, about a week ago, I subscribed to a brand new Facebook group that just popped up on the right hand side of my feed while I was busy chatting away in another Facebook group that was completely unrelated. I was interested in it because it happens to deal with worship of a Celtic god that I happen to be very close to, which is the Dagda, and that's the proper Irish pronunciation of what most Americans and a lot of Irish seem to mispronounce as the Dagda. It's a name that means All Father, and in my personal introduction, I just wanted to sort of explain my own personal views, which a lot of the members thought was really unusual to bring up at all in introduction, but I didn't. I did it. I did so because I earnestly wanted to share my own personal views. My own unique relationship with the God, and boy, I tell ya, no sooner had I done that than just a can of hellfire and whoop-ass was just opened into the group. It was ridiculous the amount of animosity I received just for an introduction, just because I happen to share my own unique and private beliefs about a deity, a Celtic deity. I got so much flack for it. I got flack for seeming to show disdain towards Celtic reconstructionists, which I didn't whatsoever. I just admitted truthfully that Celtic recons totally wouldn't accept any of my views whatsoever, no matter how much research I had put into it. And I had put in a substantial amount of research spanning 20 years. In fact, I have performed so much research that I could fairly easily list them all in the space of like 20 pages back to back. And when I admitted that, I also got a lot of flack for it, because there seemed to be an almost need for the members to one up me, to sort of want to bring me down, in a sense, which is really something that I see in paganism altogether, a need for pagans to one up each other, and I really don't see that as necessary in any way. In fact, I ultimately see it as detrimental to the craft, to paganism as a whole. There's absolutely no need for it. My personal relationship with the God is utterly unique and distinct from yours. I accept it and I acknowledge that. And I would hope that others would have the same view as I do. And I apologize if I'm slurring a little bit. I bit my tongue really badly last night while I was eating supper, so it's sort of uncomfortable to talk. But yeah, I got a hell of a lot of flack for my views. merely because the members had never come across them before, which I found odd because one of the books that was recommended highly in the group was a favorite book of mine by the late and great Irish folklorist Dr. Day O'Hagan, which mentioned things that the Celts essentially were dual-theistic. They had an Irish god who was associated with the sun, fertility, thunder, and the underworld. And when I mentioned that within context of the Dagda specifically, I got a lot of flack for it. They were completely balking me about the mere suggestion, and when I mentioned the goddess Morgan, whom I also serve and worship, who I was called to worship on Lunasa of 2002, I received an equal amount of flack by those who were trying to separate the Irish gods from Celtic paganism entirely, which is a modern academic construct that really isn't being held or withheld by Celtic specialists in general as a whole. A lot of Celtic specialists really look down upon that approach. One of them being the former keeper of Irish antiquities, Dr. Ned Kelly, whom I have spoken with and have great fondness for. In fact, I even mentioned that his pronunciation of the Dagda is the one that I prefer and the one that I was trying to convey to others. It's a grossly mispronounced name. One woman even responded that, no matter whom I cite, she basically viewed my pronunciation as utter rubbish and wouldn't accept it whatsoever. Let's see. Another person asked me to cite every single one of my sources purely so that I could be scrutinized by them as even knowing what I'm talking about. Otherwise, they would just casually dismiss me offhand as being basically a fluff bunny, which I thought was just rubbish in and of itself. I even mentioned sort of an off-the-cuff personal belief that the Morgan may in fact embody a Greco-Roman prototype in a certain sense, that there are images of Aphrodite and Venus respectively, even carvings in Celtic Britain of the same figure washing her hair, which has been identified as a pre-ritual a wedding ritual, because they were Greek and Roman maidens would regularly go into a river and bathe themselves ritually before getting married. And Venus and Aphrodite both did this. Even though it's not explicit in their mythology, there are depictions, carvings of them actually doing this, because they have been identified as such by Greek and Roman archaeologists, because there are carvings of maidens doing this. There are mosaics of maidens doing this. And there is even a passage in a Celtic myth in which the Morgan also does this astride a river before she ritually mates with the Dagda, and that has also been interpreted not within the context of war, but because the time in which they mate is at Samhain. The implication was that because there was no magical time for mating at that time, the association was that the fertility of the crops was thought of as being in terms of human pregnancy, which takes about 9 months, and would have taken them from about Samhain to about September during the harvest season. And I got a lot of flack also from that, even though what I said I made a certain amount of logic, even by some, or not by some, but even by one particular Celtic Reconstructionist whom I have never really personally gotten along with. She thinks I'm full of crap and will have nothing to do with what I say, and in fact, she pretty much tries to make me seem like a fool every time I encounter her online. Which is a shame, because we could, learn from each other. We could, even though we have these differences, they're not so much that we can't bridge them. You know what I mean? Even though we have these differences, we can still come together in communal worship, in allowing our paganism to bind us, to strengthen us. I even tried to tell them that even though I could list every single book that I've read, they may not necessarily come to my same conclusions, which is also a fact. That's a part of the mysteries, if you will, of the path that I follow, the Covenant of Morgan. And I tried to explain that to them, and they just didn't want to hear it. They continued basically dragging my name through the mud for a good week, which was just an utterly worthless use of energy that could have been put to something better. I mean, I can't tell you how many pagans I see online espousing their views rather than getting out there, getting outside, and doing something good in the world. Why aren't pagans protesting more? Why aren't we getting out there more and helping the homeless, helping animals, doing what we can instead of staying home in our own little worlds, in our own little groups, online, trying to one-up each other? It's completely worthless. And I, for one, would like to see more pagans getting out there into the world to change it, to make the world a better place than when you emerged into it. And I don't think that's folly. I think it's one of the most ingenious ways of serving the gods in this life. And I will maintain that until my dying breath. So, my fellow witches, until we see each other again, keep calm and witch on. P.S. Some future videos that I have actually recorded on an old point and shoot camera, so the quality might not seem as good when I upload some future videos, because I still have them recorded on an older SD card. So just be aware of that when I post some updates, because I have them recorded. I just haven't had them edited yet, and nor have I put them up yet. So thanks for watching, guys, and be sure and click subscribe, and as well as the bell, and you'll see when you'll be notified when I post a new video. Thanks. If I could recommend only one book on herbal magic until mine is published, it would be this book. So if you need to beg, borrow, or steal from this book, don't use stuff from this book. I'm just kidding. I don't want to get into trouble for recommending thievery, but